So you might be wondering why I'm down here on the floor. Well, it's this little black dot over here that I'm going to show you. You see what that black dot is? That black dot is ants. And also dog hair. We're going to pretend that that's not there. If I look at it closely, it seems like there's some kind of a little sticky spot there. Something must have gotten spilled, and so the ants are trying to eat it. It does not matter how clean you keep your house. Everybody gets ants from time to time. Unless, of course, you either live in a very, very cold climate, or you hire out pest control, or you have a house that's like less than 4 years old, because like it takes them a couple years to figure out how to get into the house once they build the house. But they're coming for you. Everybody gets ants. Hi, I'm Amy on A Lolly Life, and you are even better than a unicorn because you're real. We are going to talk about the 3 main ways to take care of ants that are bothering you because they are in your house. Number 1 is that you can... I forgot what number 1 was. Hold on, let me think for a second. Oh, that's right. Number 1, you can kill the visible ants, the ones that you can see. And number 2, you can use a repellent of some kind or something that makes it undesirable for the ants to want to stay in the area. And number 3, you can use some kind of a bait that they then take back to their colony, and it kills off the entire colony, or at least sections of it. First, let's talk about killing and getting rid of the visible ants. What can you do to kill the ants on your counter, besides just wipe them up, since they come right back? Baking soda and powdered sugar. Same amount of baking soda you use the same amount of powdered sugar. You can set little things like this in the hot spots where the ants tend to come. Now, the nice thing about this one is that it's not poisonous. So if your kids were to get into it, it wouldn't necessarily hurt them or your pets. The bad thing about it is that it only kills the ants that consume it. They don't take it back to their nest and like get rid of everybody else with it. Another thing that you can do is if you have an old water bottle or soda can like this and some Dawn dish soap like this, then you can fill up your water bottle with the water and just put a few drops of the Dawn dish soap in it. And then if you have a knife, a knife like this, you poke a hole in the top of the water bottle. A little tiny hole poked in it. Give it a little shake, not too much. You can use that to squirt on ants that are bothering you outside or in a picnic area, because when you spray it on the ants, it will kill the ants that you see. Number 2, let's talk about deterring ants or repelling them, making the area undesirable for the ants. First and foremost, you actually have to remove any of the food or debris, because no matter what you do to make it undesirable, if there's food or edible stuff around, they're going to find a way to get to it. So the best way to make an area undesirable is to clean it up and to remove any crumbs or stickiness. Another thing that you can do is you can use vinegar like this and a squirt bottle like this with a little bit of water. Squirt bottle full of half of vinegar, half water, and then you spray the ants, or you can mop the floor with it to discourage the ants from being around. Another thing that ants don't like is citrus. Like this. You can take the peels to citrus, and if you dry it out and then you kind of crumble it up, you can sprinkle it in your potted plants, and it will keep ants from wanting to get into your potted plants or in other areas. And so citrus, they don't like the smell of citrus. The smell of the lemon is particularly bad, but even if you just use a lemon-scented cleaner, that is something that ants don't like. Put a few drops of your essential oil on the cotton swab and then put this in your hot spots. That will something that will deter them. Ants don't like to cross chalky, powdery substances. And so you could actually draw a chalk line, if you drew a really thick chalk line, on the ground, and the ants will try to go around that. It will try not to cross over it because that chalk really messes with them and they lose the ability to sense things. So just drawing a chalk line, a thick chalk line, will stop ants or like deter them. They will find ways around. And finally, we are going to talk about bait, which kills the entire colony. Bait is something that tastes good to ants, and they will eat it up, and they take it back to the colony, and then it kills the entire colony. Unlike the things that kill just the ants, like the baking soda and powdered sugar, which will kill just the ants that ate it, this is something that they take back to the colony, and it kills the entire colony, or at least huge sections of it. The only problem with bait is that bait is, well, poisonous. And so if you have pets or people, especially little peoples, you have to be very careful with bait. And you don't want them to get it. Even if he doesn't eat it, he might accidentally tip it over and then like it would spill on the carpet over there. So we have to figure out a way to make this accessible to the ants and not accessible to my little floppy dog. You can look up ways that you can make a bait with things that you might have around the house using borax and sugar and water and things. I have found that they aren't nearly as successful as this commercial one that I love. The ants actually like the bait. They seriously will go in there and eat the bait. Most of the ant control things, I can't get them to eat the bait. Like, you can't really get rid of the ants if they don't eat the bait. Myself personally, I just feel like if I feel like that it's necessary to put out poison, I'm going to put out the thing that I feel like that would do it the best and the fastest and the easiest. And that is this ant poison. This poison isn't less poisonous than that poison or more poisonous. They're both poison. I don't feel like that making homemade poison is something that I personally would want to do. If I am going to use poison, I'm going to use the most effective thing possible so that I can use it for the least amount of time possible. The way that I like to use bait when I feel like that there's a chance that a pet or a little person might come in contact, I will use a deterrent, something that's non-toxic, in the area that I found the ants, like say on the kitchen counter where the child or maybe a pet or somebody might get up there and see that. And then I will use the bait in a spot that I can like close off. So maybe underneath the sink, if you saw the ants on the counter, if you put the bait trap underneath the sink, the ants will still possibly find the bait and it'll do its work, but the bait isn't out for somebody to get into or poison themselves. Do not eat. Yucky. Slip my little trap in there, and now I can go put it out there. That's going to take care of the problem for me. If you have young children, that's probably not going to take care of the problem for you. If you have a dog that is like extra explorative, is that a word? I don't think it's a word. Just likes to get into things a little bit more, then this probably won't work for you. You might have to get something a little bit different. I put a couple of books over there to like just make everybody aware that this is like an area you're not supposed to touch. When you are using this bait poison, it usually takes 2 to 3 days to get rid of the ants. And in that case, you actually do not want to get rid of the visible ants. You want to see the ants taking the poison and back to their colony. You have to let the ants get to the poison, and so you have to leave the ant trail, or at least some of the ant trail, in order to use a bait. As you can see, they have found the bait. And so since they have found the bait, this spot is something I can clean up. And obviously they love the bait. They are like going to town there. Now I just want to leave the ants alone. I don't want to clean them up because I want them to take that poison back to their colony. Here's our little ant update. As you can see, down here, there is still a fair amount of activity in our little poison trap. Day 3, we're checking on our ants. I think there's an ant crawling around in there. Yeah, there's an ant there. But I think I'm pleased with how it is, and I'm going to clean it up. Get the vacuum out and clean it up. And we have some dead ants. I have found that usually after 2 to 3 days, the ant trail just like disappears and it's gone. I have also found that if I leave the bait there, about a week later, there's ants again, and then they disappear, and then I just don't see them again. And I think that that's because a lot of times the bait doesn't kill the entire community, because some ants are eating out of this section and it doesn't poison, and other ants are eating out of this section and it is poisoned. And so it's possible to kill off part of a community and not just the whole community. And so I have found that if I have poison out and I leave it out about a week later, oftentimes I will see ants back there again, and then those ants disappear, and I really just have very, very little problem with it coming back. Well, until the next spring, because ants come back every spring and lots of times every fall. Dead ant, dead ant, dead ant, dead ant, dead ant, dead ant, dead ant. Do. I cannot even sing and hum. I can't even do it that way. I just can't carry a tune to save my life. That's okay. And I'll see you next time on A Lolly Life.